Yo, what's good? It's Jason from Team Ignis Vanguard. I'm just here making one more little deck profile for you guys. I mentioned in my last video that I built Murakumo recently at BCS Atlanta, and Murakumo is killing it right now. So I just wanted to make my deck profile and let you guys know what's going on from the point of view of a great nature player, what Murakumo looks like. So first of all, for the grade 3s, you run 4 Zanbaku, obviously. He's a super good card. His skill is that you can counterblast 1, soul blast 1, he gets 5k, and then you search the deck for a card with the word arrestor in it, and if you have a right and you call it, and then if you have a right and a left arrestor, your Vanguard cannot, they can't reride. Obviously this is a card from VBTO2, so you all probably know the skill, but it's super good. And then right arrestor skills, obviously when play CV2, they can't restand, so you can't restand, you can't reride, is pretty good. That would explain why at BCS Atlanta, 4 out of the top 4 teams had a Murakumo player on their roster, so this deck might be worth picking up for a lot of you guys. I run, in addition to that, 1 Zangeki. He's the new VBTO4 Violus Deleter card, the VR for Murakumo. He's pretty good. He's not great, but his skill is that if you have both left and right arrestor, for the left arrestor he gets plus 5k, and for the right arrestor he gets a crit, and then you can only call grade 0s from hand. Why it's only okay is it's a good finisher. He's a 17k body, he gets you an extra cell circle, he's got a crit, some power, and he does have a guard restrict. But grade 0s, for the most part, people are going to have PGs in grade 0, so it gets PGs out of hand, which is pretty good. So that's why I run it. And it's a good card, but you have to have a dueling dragon in the soul to use the skill. Obviously not the best in the world. So you ride into him in a very few number of situations, but then the next card is a super good card. Her name is Shirayuki, and Shirayuki's skill is that when she's placed you can soul blast 2 and then subtract 3 units in the front row by 5k, but if she was placed on Vanguard or Guardian, make it 10k instead. And it's super good. Like, you can place her on Vanguard, subtract their whole front row by 10k, and then just go ham. If you rode first, especially, this is really good, because Zanbaku only makes it so they can't re-ride from grade 3. So this is a good first ride if you haven't got your Zanbaku condition, or you went first. So it's a really good card. And then she's got an underestimated second skill, which is that when an attack from her does not hit, you can return one of her from your drop zone to your hand. And so you can use, if you have 2, you can use 1 offensively and then 1 defensively, and then if this attack from the Vanguard ever doesn't hit, you can get it back. I've used it a couple times, and it really is a good skill. People forget about it. I've seen people play Murakumo and just meet the condition and then not do the rest of the skill, but it's a really good skill. So this is the grade 3 lineup: 4 Zanbaku, 1 Zangeki, 3 Shirayuki. Really good card. I picked these up, by the way, at BCS Atlanta. I got 2 of them for $2 a piece, and then a really nice guy I met down there gave me 1 of them for free, and now they're like $8. So I got all of these for the price of like half of 1. So very good deal I got on the cards. So those are the grade 3s, and those are really, that's the price point of the deck, is the grade 3s. The rest of this deck really isn't that expensive, but Zanbaku's are 20, she's about 8 apiece, and he's about 6, so, oof. That hurt my wallet when I was doing it. I bought it all in one day down in Atlanta, so it was like, ouchies. And then for grade 2s, this is a super simple deck. You run 4 right arrestor, 4 left arrestor, and then 4 of another card, but I'll get into it in a sec. Let me explain why you run 4 of each. It's because Zanbaku needs to have these cards out, needs to search for these cards. Zangeki needs to have right and left arrestor out on the field, and they combo really well together. So let's say you have Zanbaku down, and you ride Zanbaku, and then you call left arrestor, and then you counterblast 1, soul blast 1, search the deck, call for right arrestor, counterblast 2. Now they cannot restand, they cannot re-ride. They're basically going to have to skip their next turn unless they're running in a cell and they've gotten the chance to pump out a bunch of rear guards, which is why Great Nature is really good against this deck. But yeah, you're in a sense, you're Gear Chronicle turn skipping them, because you're denying them the drive checks, you're denying them an extra attack, you're denying them on-place Vanguard skills, their gifts. These are super good cards to run, and you have to run them for a Murakumo deck that runs properly. And so that's what you would have run, and you'd run, I think his name is Fushimi, if it was VBTO2, but now that VBTO4 is out, Violet's Deleter, we run Jakatsu Girl, and she is super good. You run 4 of her. Her skill is that when her attack doesn't hit, you check the top 7 for 2 Shirayuki. You can put 1 to hand, 1 to drop. And it's a really good skill, because you can get Shirayukis from Drop Zone, both with Shirayuki and from another card called Rainy Madame, who you also run 4 of. But even better, that would have been a good skill in itself, because it's when it doesn't hit, so it applies pressure. But you can soul charge 1 if you didn't find a Shirayuki. And since Shirayuki needs soul, it's like, that's really good. So that and a couple other cards are your soul charging engine for this deck. So now I'm going to move on to grade 1s. I run a 3 of the Million Rat card. He is pretty good. What his skill is that you counterblast 1 when he's placed. If there's not another Million Rat on the field, you search the deck for a Million Rat and call it, and he gets -4. It's pretty good for filling up your field. It costs a counterblast in a deck that's already counterblast heavy, and the reason I only run 3 instead of 4 is because if you can't call a Million Rat with this skill when there's already 1 on the field, you're really only going to be able to do this once in a game, because they're probably, unless they retire it, but I don't know, it's just not worth it to run a 4 of when there's so many other good grade 1s in this deck. And speaking of good grade 1s in the Murakumo deck, this is probably the best one. This is Rainy Madame. You run 4 of. Her skill is that when any unit, just any unit, their attack doesn't hit, you put it into your soul, and you get a Fantasy Petal Storm Shirayuki from your drop zone and put it to your hand. So it's like, that's pretty fucking good, because she goes into soul for soul charge, you get your Shirayuki back, and it's just when the attack doesn't hit of any unit. So it's like ultimate pressure. It's like, either you lose the game right here and you take all my attacks, or I'm going to get Shirayuki back from the drop zone, put this unit into soul, and I'm going to Shirayuki you again next defensive turn, because she's really good for defense. I mean, imagine being a cell and swinging in like your Aqua Force, and you're barely hitting anyway, and then you like Shirayuki them, and they just cannot do anything to you, because Aqua Force gets shut down by a defensive trigger. But if you got a defensive trigger in Aqua Force, they would essentially be in the negative numbers with a Shirayuki. It's insane. It's ridiculous. So then you run 4 Jamming Impeder, and what his skill is that at the end of the battle, that it boosted a Vanguard, you can Soul Blast 1, look at top 5 from the deck, and reveal up to 1 right arrestor or left arrestor, and put it in your hand. He's good because you still use the Zanbaku skill. That's what makes this deck meta, is the combination of Zanbaku and Shirayuki. And so you're going to want arresters, and if you're not getting lucky and you're not getting arresters, you have this card. It's a really good card. I really recommend it. The only thing I don't like about it is the Soul Blast cost, because this deck is resource heavy. You draw a lot, you counterblast a lot, you Soul Blast a lot. Oof. So yeah, that's that deck. And then lastly is the Stealth Beast Metamorfox. He's a really good card as well. He's like, whenever you place him on rear guard, he gains the name of another unit, and in a deck that relies on names so much, like right arrestor and left arrestor, it's pretty good. So that's that. Those are the cards of the deck. In terms of grade 0s, you obviously run 1 Cat Devil, who's your starter, and you know, he's good. He has the same ability as all other starters. And then you run 6 draw, 4 PGs, and then 2 of the regular draw. And this is because in this deck, you need hand size or you will die. Because this deck is a perfect balance between offense and defense. And that's perfectly shown in Zanbaku. His skill is both offensive and defensive. It's not even good in the short term. You're counterblasting 1, soul blasting 1, you're only gaining 5k and another rear guard. Pretty good. But then when it passes to their turn, it's defense, because you don't have to guard a Vanguard attack. You don't let them have force circles, you don't let them get a cell. It's a defense in offense, and it's really cool how that works. Same with Shirayuki. When you place her down, you're subtracting power directly from their field. So it's great defense. And so that's what you kind of do. Is it's in a cell deck, yeah, but you play it as though you're whittling down your opponent. And that's why you run 6 draw, is because you're going to want to have a good hand size, so that if they manage to overcome your Shirayuki or whatever, you know, you have the draw capability. Also, this might be an unpopular opinion, but having a 5k shield in a trigger is really nice because sometimes you just need to drop a 5k, you don't want to overguard. Sometimes you need just a 5k to pay for a perfect guard cost, and it's like, it comes in handy more than you'd think. And then you run 6 crit. This is obviously to apply pressure. You can use the crit with Zanbaku, you can use the crit with Shirayuki. When you've subtracted them, you can use the crit with Zangeki if you want to add another crit to that. You know, obviously it's pretty scary. So that's why you run 6 crit. Some people, I was even considering taking out 1 crit and putting in a front, just because fronts are nice, but I like the trigger consistency of 6 crit, 6 draw, and then obviously 4 heal triggers. And so that is my Murakumo deck. It is pretty much what most people will run. I am, one thing that, you know, I'm a new player to Murakumo. I just built this deck about a week ago down in Atlanta. So one thing I am curious about, if any of you have any suggestions, is my grade 1 lineup, because it's pretty much just what I had. I knew I needed the Jakatsu Girl support, the Rainy Madame thing, but I didn't know, you know, Metamorfox is just kind of a tech. He's a good card, but, you know, I don't really know what the pool looks like, so, you know, let me know what I should run. That'd be good. So, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you.